My name is Pearl. I am 67 years old and have been a widow for 5 years now. I adore my grandchildren Lily, who is 6, and Jack, who is 4, more than anything in this world. But lately, my back pain has become unbearable. When I told my son Jacob I couldn't babysit every day anymore, his response crushed me. "Then you're just a useless grandma who doesn't love her grandkids." Those words shattered everything. If you're watching this, please let me know where you're viewing from and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had a family member treat you unfairly. After my husband Frank passed away from cancer 5 years ago, I found myself living alone for the first time in 43 years. Our house felt empty, too quiet, and I struggled to find purpose in my daily routine. Frank and I had always planned to travel during our retirement years, but those dreams disappeared along with him. My son Jacob and his wife Allison had just welcomed their first child, my granddaughter Lily, when Frank was diagnosed. Throughout Frank's illness, I had been less present in their lives than I wanted to be. After he passed, spending time with my granddaughter became my lifeline. When Jack arrived 2 years later, my love simply multiplied. It started casually. Allison would call asking if I could watch Lily for a few hours while she took Jack to his doctor's appointment. Or Jacob would ask if I could come over for the afternoon when Allison needed to work late. I was always happy to help. Being with my grandchildren filled the emptiness in my heart. When Allison's maternity leave ended after Jack was born, they approached me about a more permanent arrangement. Childcare costs in our area were astronomical, and they were struggling financially with their new mortgage. Jacob asked if I would consider watching the children during the week while they worked. "Mom, you would be saving us over $2,000 a month," Jacob explained. "Plus, the kids love you so much. They'd be with family instead of strangers." How could I say no? I agreed immediately, feeling needed and valued. The arrangement seemed perfect. I'd arrive at their home by 7 each morning. I'd help get Lily ready for kindergarten, pack her lunch, and drive her to school. Then, Jack and I would have our special time together, reading books, playing with toys, and taking walks to the neighborhood park. In the afternoon, I'd pick up Lily from school, help with her homework, prepare dinner for the family, and wait for Jacob and Allison to return from work around 6. It was exhausting, but fulfilling. The children's laughter and hugs made everything worthwhile. What I didn't anticipate was the physical toll. At 67, my energy wasn't what it used to be. Jack still needed to be carried up and down the stairs for naps. Lily wanted to be swung around in circles. There were countless trips up and down the basement stairs to do laundry. By the end of each day, my back would be throbbing, but I took some pain medication and pushed through it. These children were my world, and I wanted to be there for them. The back pain started gradually. At first, it was just stiffness in the morning that would ease as the day progressed. But over time, it became more persistent and severe. I found myself wincing when Jack would jump into my arms or when I needed to bend down to tie Lily's shoes. After particularly active days with the children, I would return home barely able to climb the steps to my front door. Nights became torture as I struggled to find a comfortable position to sleep. I started taking over-the-counter pain medication daily just to function. "You need to see someone about that back," my friend Sarah insisted after watching me struggle to stand up from her couch during our rare coffee date. I had to cancel our previous 3 get-togethers because I was simply too exhausted or in too much pain. I finally made an appointment with my doctor, hoping for a quick fix so I could continue caring for my grandchildren without interruption. The diagnosis was not what I wanted to hear. "Pearl, you have degenerative disc disease that's being aggravated by your current activities," Dr. Miller explained as he showed me my x-rays. "The constant lifting, bending, and carrying is causing inflammation around your spine. If you continue at this pace, you could end up with permanent nerve damage." When I asked about treatment options, his recommendation was clear: physical therapy, twice a week, anti-inflammatory medication, and most importantly, you need to significantly reduce activities that strain your back. That means no lifting children or heavy objects, limited bending, and taking frequent breaks throughout the day. My heart sank. How could I care for a 4-year-old without lifting him? Jack still needed help getting into his car seat. He needed to be picked up when he fell. He often fell asleep on the couch and needed to be carried to bed. I tried explaining my situation to Jacob and Allison one evening after the children were asleep. They were sympathetic but distracted, both scrolling through their phones as I spoke. That sounds painful, Mom, Jacob said without looking up. Maybe you should try one of those back brace things. Allison nodded. My coworker swears by this chiropractor. I can get his number for you. Neither of them seemed to grasp that this wasn't a minor inconvenience, but a serious health issue. I left that night feeling unheard, but I didn't push the subject. I didn't want to burden them with my problems when they were already stressed with work and parenting. The following weeks became increasingly difficult. The pain medication barely took the edge off, and I found myself counting the hours until I could go home and lie down. One afternoon, Jack had a meltdown when I couldn't pick him up to see the construction trucks out the window. I tried explaining that Grandma's back hurts, but how does a 4-year-old understand that? To make matters worse, Allison began adding more tasks to my daily routine. What started as childcare gradually expanded to include all household responsibilities. I was now expected to do all the family's laundry, clean the bathrooms, vacuum daily, because of their dog that shed constantly, and prepare meals that could be reheated for dinner. Since you're here all day anyway, would you mind running these errands? Became a common request with a list left on the counter each morning. Grocery shopping with a 4-year-old in tow while navigating constant back pain became my new reality. One morning, I arrived to find a stack of Jack's bedsheets soiled from a nighttime accident. Allison was rushing out the door for an early meeting. Sorry I didn't have time to deal with those, she called over her shoulder. The carpet in his room needs cleaning too. Thanks, Pearl, you're a lifesaver. As I struggled up the stairs with cleaning supplies, fighting back tears from the pain, I realized something had shifted. I was no longer Grandma helping out with childcare. I had become their unpaid housekeeper, cook, and errand runner. When I tried to broach the subject with Allison later that week, suggesting maybe we could find a cleaning service to help with the heavier housework, she seemed offended. We thought you enjoyed being helpful, she said, her tone making me feel guilty for even asking. My mother would be thrilled to be as involved as you are. I retreated, not wanting to cause tension. But that night, as I lay awake with heating pads pressed against my throbbing back, I wondered how much longer I could continue. The incident that forced me to make a decision happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Lily was at a friend's house for a play date, and Jack wanted to build a fort in the living room. We gathered pillows and blankets, and I helped him create a magical little space. He was delighted, giggling and pretending to be a knight guarding his castle. When it was time to clean up before picking up Lily, I bent down to grab a blanket from the floor. A searing pain shot through my lower back, radiating down my legs, and I collapsed onto the carpet. The pain was so intense that for a moment I couldn't breathe or speak. Jack stood staring at me, his eyes wide with fear. Grandma, are you playing a game? He asked, his little voice trembling. I tried to reassure him while fighting waves of pain. No, sweetheart. Grandma hurt her back. Can you bring me my phone from the table? Thank goodness Jack was old enough to follow directions. I managed to call my daughter Emma, who lived about 20 minutes away. She arrived quickly, frightened by my condition, and called an ambulance when she realized I couldn't stand. At the emergency room, after multiple tests and examinations, the doctor was blunt. This is a severe episode caused by chronic strain. You have a bulging disc that's pressing on your sciatic nerve. We need to talk about immediate lifestyle changes, or we're looking at potential surgery. Emma stayed with me through the night at the hospital. The next morning, heavily medicated, but thinking more clearly, I made my decision. I couldn't continue providing full-time childcare. I loved my grandchildren too much to risk becoming permanently disabled and unable to be part of their lives at all. Emma helped me prepare what to say. We decided I would offer a compromise. I could watch the children 2 or 3 days per week instead of 5, giving my body time to heal between caregiving days. When I felt strong enough to have the conversation, I asked Jacob and Allison to come to my house on Sunday afternoon. Emma stayed to support me, but remained in another room. I love Lily and Jack more than anything. I began sitting carefully on my ergonomic cushion. But my doctor has made it clear that I need to reduce the physical strain on my back or face serious consequences. I explained my proposed solution, emphasizing that I wasn't abandoning them, but trying to find a sustainable arrangement. Jacob's face darkened immediately. So, you're just going to leave us hanging? Do you have any idea how much childcare costs? I understand it's expensive, I acknowledged, but this isn't about money, it's about my health. Allison crossed her arms. We built our entire work schedules around your availability. We can't just rearrange everything because you're feeling a little sore. Their dismissal of my serious health condition felt like a slap in the face. I tried again, explaining the doctor's warnings about potential permanent nerve damage and showing them my MRI results. "Everyone has back pain at your age, Mom," Jacob said dismissively. "My friend's mother is 70 and still watches her grandkids full time. She never complains." The conversation deteriorated from there. They suggested I was exaggerating my condition, that I should just push through it, or find ways to manage while maintaining my current schedule. When I stood firm, Jacob's frustration boiled over. "Then you're just a useless grandma who doesn't love her grandkids." He spat his words, hitting me like physical blows. What kind of grandmother chooses her own comfort over her family's needs? I felt as though all the air had been sucked from the room. In that moment, my decades of love and sacrifice for my son meant nothing. I was valuable only for what services I could provide. With shaking hands, I reached into my purse and removed the house key they had given me for emergencies, though in reality it was so I could let myself in for my daily childcare duties. I placed it on the coffee table between us. "I think you should find another arrangement," I said quietly, fighting to keep my voice steady. Then I stood up despite the pain and walked to the door, signaling that our discussion was over. As they left, Jacob threw one last barb. "Don't expect to see much of Lily and Jack if you can't be bothered to help us." The threat of losing access to my grandchildren was the cruelest cut of all. After they left, I collapsed onto my couch and broke down completely. Emma rushed in from the kitchen where she'd been listening, wrapping her arms around me as I sobbed. "How could he say those things?" I cried. "After everything I've done for him his entire life." My mind raced through all the sacrifices I'd made for Jacob over the years. Working 2 jobs after his father walked out when he was 12, scrimping and saving to send him to college, being there for every basketball game, every parent-teacher conference, every milestone. And now, in my time of need, he saw me only as a convenience. "He doesn't mean it, Mom," Emma tried to console me. "He's just stressed about the childcare situation." But the words had been said, and they couldn't be unsaid. That night, after Emma reluctantly left to return to her own family, I lay awake questioning everything. Had I failed as a mother somehow? Had I raised a son who valued convenience over compassion? Was I being selfish by prioritizing my health? The next morning, I called my friend Sarah, needing perspective from someone who had known me for decades. "Absolutely not," Sarah said firmly when I asked if I was being unreasonable. "Pearl, you've given that boy everything, including your health. There's nothing selfish about needing to take care of yourself." Sarah shared that she'd faced a similar situation with her daughter a few years back. "I was watching my grandson 4 days a week while working part-time. When my arthritis flared up, my daughter acted like I was betraying her. We didn't speak for 3 weeks." "How did you resolve it?" I asked desperately. "I stood my ground," Sarah said. "Eventually she realized she had 2 choices: accept my boundaries or lose my help entirely. Now, I watch him 2 days a week and we have a much healthier relationship." Her story gave me hope, but the days that followed were still agonizing. My phone remained silent except for a few terse text messages from Jacob and Allison about picking up toys I'd left at their house. The real pain, though, was not seeing Lily and Jack. I missed their morning hugs, Jack's silly jokes, and Lily's detailed stories about school. One night, I broke down and texted Jacob, asking if I could at least FaceTime with the children. His response was cutting. "We're too busy finding replacement childcare to arrange that right now. Thanks for putting us in this position." Allison sent a similar message. "The kids are confused and upset about why Grandma suddenly doesn't want to see them anymore. We're trying to explain your priorities to them." The guilt they were attempting to instill was overwhelming. I began to doubt myself again until Emma called, furious, after receiving a call from Jacob. "He tried to get me to convince you to go back to watching the kids full time," she fumed. "He actually said Mom's being dramatic about her back. I told him he should be ashamed of himself." Emma's support strengthened my resolve. This wasn't just about my back anymore. It was about being treated with basic respect and dignity by my own child. As days turned into a week, Jacob and Allison escalated their pressure campaign. My phone buzzed constantly with guilt-inducing messages. "Had to take an unpaid day off work today since someone couldn't watch the kids." "Jack cried for you at bedtime. Hope you're happy." Childcare centers in our area have 6-month waiting lists. What exactly do you expect us to do? These messages were interspersed with missed calls and voicemails that I couldn't bring myself to listen to. The emotional manipulation was clear, but still effective in making me question my decision. Then, the flying monkeys arrived. My former sister-in-law, Barbara Frank's sister, called to tell me I was being selfish and abandoning those poor children. She had only heard Jacob's version, where I had suddenly refused to help for no good reason. Frank would be so disappointed, she said, wielding my late husband's memory as a weapon. Family always came first for him. I ended the call in tears, unable to defend myself. The next day, I received similar calls from two other relatives and even a mutual friend of Jacob's and mine. Jacob was clearly spreading his narrative widely, painting me as the villain. Meanwhile, Allison was posting passive-aggressive comments on social media. Shout out to all the grandmothers who actually show up for their grandkids, unlike some people. Her friends commented with supportive messages, having no idea of the real situation. Through Emma, I learned that Jacob and Allison were struggling to find affordable childcare. They'd hired a college student temporarily, but she had classes some days and wasn't reliable. They'd contacted several daycare centers, but faced long waiting lists or prices even higher than they'd anticipated. They're realizing how much you were actually doing for them, Emma reported after another tense conversation with her brother. Allison's mother, Janet, offered to help 1 day a week, but she works part-time and lives 40 minutes away. It was during this difficult period that Emma truly became my champion. She confronted Jacob directly during a family dinner she'd organized specifically to address the situation. "Do you realize Mom has been getting physical therapy 3 times a week?" she challenged him. Her doctor said she could end up in a wheelchair if she doesn't reduce the strain on her spine. "Is that what you want?" Jacob apparently dismissed her concerns, leading to a heated argument. When he suggested I was using my back as an excuse to retire from grandparenting duties, Emma lost her patience entirely. "She raised us alone after Dad left, working herself to exhaustion," she reminded him. "She put your needs above her own for 35 years. The one time she asks for some consideration, you treat her like this." Their argument ended with Jacob storming out and Emma calling me in tears, apologizing for making things worse. But I was grateful for her defense, even if it didn't immediately change anything. The breaking point came when Jacob called with an ultimatum. "Mom, this has gone on long enough. Either you come back and help us like before, or we'll have to reconsider how often you get to see Lily and Jack. It's not fair to them to have a grandmother who only shows up when it's convenient." The threat of losing my relationship with my grandchildren felt like a knife to my heart. I hung up the phone and cried until I had no tears left. But somewhere in that despair, I found clarity. If Jacob thought he could use my grandchildren as pawns to control me, our relationship was already broken beyond what I had realized. The turning point came from an unexpected source. One evening, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. It was Janet, Allison's mother. "Pearl, I hope you don't mind me calling. Allison gave me your number months ago for emergencies with the kids." I braced myself for another attack, but her tone was gentle. "I've been hearing about the situation from Allison, but something didn't add up. I wanted to get your side of the story if you're willing to share it." For the next hour, Janet and I talked openly. I explained my health issues, showed her photos of my MRI results, and described the escalating demands that had been placed on me. Janet listened without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "I had no idea you were doing so much," she admitted. "Allison told me you were just babysitting a few hours a day. I didn't realize you were essentially running their household." Janet then shared something surprising. She too had been feeling pressured to provide more childcare than her health and work schedule allowed. "They've been asking me to drive in every Friday, stay overnight, and watch the kids all weekend so they can have a break," she confided. "When I said my arthritis makes the long drive difficult, Allison suggested I should just move closer to them. We realized that we were both being manipulated and taken for granted. Janet, a retired nurse, completely understood the severity of my back condition and was appalled that Jacob and Allison had dismissed medical advice so casually. "They're adults with 2 healthy children," Janet said firmly. "It's their responsibility to figure out childcare, not guilt their parents into ignoring their own health needs." By the end of our conversation, we had formed an unexpected alliance. Janet promised to speak with Allison and present the facts more clearly. She also suggested a potential compromise. She could handle 1 day a week, I might manage 2 days if my health permitted, and Jacob and Allison would need to arrange alternative care for the remaining days. True to her word, Janet had a serious conversation with both Allison and Jacob the following weekend when she visited. According to Emma, who heard about it afterward, Janet was unequivocal about the unreasonable expectations they had placed on me. "Your mother has a serious medical condition that you've been ignoring," she reportedly told them. "If Pearl ends up with permanent damage from continuing to lift your children against medical advice, how will you explain to Lily and Jack that you caused their grandmother to be disabled?" Janet's intervention seemed to finally break through their defensiveness. Maybe it was hearing the same message from Allison's mother rather than mine, or perhaps the reality of their childcare struggles had finally made them appreciate what they'd taken for granted. A few days later, Jacob called. His tone was different, humbled, even slightly embarrassed. "Mom, can we talk in person? Maybe Emma could be there too if that would make you more comfortable." We arranged to meet at my house the following evening. Both Jacob and Allison came along with Janet, who had extended her visit specifically for this conversation. The meeting began awkwardly, with Jacob clearly struggling to find the right words. "I've been unfair to you," he finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "The things I said, they were cruel and untrue. Of course you love Lily and Jack, and of course your health matters." Allison nodded, tears in her eyes. "We took advantage of your generosity, Pearl. We kept adding more and more to your plate without considering the toll it was taking." Their apologies seemed genuine, but I needed more than words. I presented my conditions clearly. I could watch the children 2 days per week with specific limitations on lifting and household responsibilities. Janet offered 1 day of help. For the remaining 2 days, they would need to find alternative care. "We've already enrolled them in a childcare center for Tuesdays and Thursdays," Jacob said. "It's expensive, but we're adjusting our budget. Your health is more important than a few extra restaurant meals or streaming subscriptions." We agreed on boundaries regarding housework and additional tasks. They would hire a monthly cleaning service for deep cleaning, and day-to-day tidying would be their responsibility. Most importantly, they acknowledged that access to my grandchildren would never again be used as leverage. As they were leaving, Jacob hugged me gently, mindful of my back. "I'm sorry, Mom. I forgot that you're not just my mother or their grandmother. You're a person who deserves care, too." It's been 1 month since we reached our new arrangement, and the difference in my life has been profound. I now watch Lily and Jack on Mondays and Wednesdays. Janet takes Fridays, and they attend Little Explorers Childcare on Tuesdays and Thursdays. My back pain has improved significantly with regular physical therapy and proper rest between caregiving days. I can enjoy my grandchildren without the constant fear of injuring myself further. Our time together feels more special now, more intentional. Jacob has been making amends in small but meaningful ways. He installed grab bars in their bathroom for when I visit, purchased a special cushion for their dining chairs to support my back, and most importantly, checks in regularly about how I'm feeling. Allison surprised me by arranging a spa day for my birthday, complete with a therapeutic massage specifically designed for back issues. "A small thank you for everything you do for us," the card read. "These gestures show they're finally seeing me as a person with needs, not just a convenient childcare provider." The most remarkable change has been in my relationship with my grandchildren. Rather than being exhausted and in pain during our time together, I'm now fully present and engaged. Lily has noticed the difference. "Grandma, you laugh more now," she observed recently while we were baking cookies. "And you can play longer." Beyond my family relationships, I've reclaimed parts of myself that had been neglected. I've joined a book club that meets on Thursdays, started volunteering at the community garden on Tuesday mornings, and reconnected with friends I'd been too busy or too tired to see. This experience taught me a painful but necessary lesson about setting healthy boundaries, even with those we love most. For too long, I equated self-sacrifice with love, believing that putting everyone else's needs before my own was the mark of a good mother and grandmother. Now I understand that true love requires balance. By taking care of my health, I can be present for my grandchildren for many years to come. By setting clear boundaries, I've actually improved my relationships rather than damaged them. My son had to learn that respecting me as his mother means acknowledging my humanity, my limitations, my needs, and my right to self care. It was a difficult journey to this understanding, but I believe we've all emerged stronger and wiser. If there's one thing I want to share from this experience, it's this: having the courage to say no when necessary isn't selfish. It's the only way to sustainably say yes to what matters most. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do for our families is to love ourselves enough to set healthy boundaries. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who didn't understand your limitations? How did you find the courage to stand up for yourself? Share your experiences in the comments below, and please like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Remember, taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Thank you for listening, and I hope this helps someone who might be struggling with similar challenges in their family.